Hey everyone, it's Jacqueline at Pixie Dust PhD. Over the past month or so, we've gotten little snippets of Disney Vacation Club news. None of them seemed big enough to warrant a video of their own, but I thought I would stitch them together here. So we'll talk about the few facts we do know, and I'll sprinkle my opinion in as well. I would also love to hear your opinion on these topics. So let's get going. First, and perhaps most excitingly, Disney announced the Cabins at Fort Wilderness, a Disney Vacation Club resort. Cabins at Fort Wilderness already exist. My understanding is all approximately 350 of those are now going to be converted into Disney Vacation Club. There will be no other existing Cabins at Fort Wilderness for the general moderate resort. These cabins are reported to sleep up to 6 adults and will have a private bedroom and bathroom as well as a living room area. They are also supposed to have a kitchen and a patio. I've not yet seen details as to laundry. And some of the cabins reportedly will be dog-friendly, which I know is a huge bonus for some of you. And we are expecting the addition of a pool and a walking trail to the resort area. The cabins at Fort Wilderness are expected to open sometime in 2024, so this is pretty cool news. Facts-wise, I think that's all we know for now. If you know more, please do leave a comment down below. Subjectively, I think this is a very interesting move. You are now putting DVC at a proper moderate resort. I know when Riviera was announced, for example, some people were a little miffed at how close it was to a moderate resort, but they didn't even actually share the hotel. And now you're putting DVC in the moderate resort. I assume the rest of Fort Wilderness will remain, so I've never been there personally, but my understanding is that you can camp there basically. You can tent camp, you can RV camp. Previously, you could rent out these cabins to, cabin camp. Now the cabins will be DVC. Obviously, there are those plans to add in the pool and walking trail, presumably to amp up the amenities to make it feel more like a DVC resort. But yeah, that's an interesting pick, I think, taking a moderate and making it into DVC. And also, even though I've never stayed at Fort Wilderness, I do see a lot of people online talk about how much they love it, and including the cabins. So that's definitely a calculated move on Disney's part to take away the cabins from the moderate resort that you can easily book for a cash price that is a little more expensive than some of the other moderates, but you get more space is my understanding, and now convert those to DVC. Presumably once that conversion's done, the cash rate for those will spike a ton. So I feel bad for the folks who go to Fort Wilderness every year, and especially the folks who rent a cabin. They're now being squeezed out of that family tradition. But it does seem like an interesting resort concept for DVC. These will be a little bigger than a 1-bedroom, but a little smaller than a 2-bedroom, and potentially dog-friendly. So it could really fill a great niche. The point charts will be super interesting. Who knows how many points per night these are gonna cost. I think that'll sway a lot of people's opinions. Same with the price per point and the dues, all of that stuff. Overall, I am excited to see how this progresses, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next up, we have villas at Disneyland Hotel, which are now officially on sale to existing members. Incentives were released the day that sale started. There is no incentive if you're buying from 50 points to 124 points, and 50 points is the minimum buy-in. From 125 to 149 points, you get $4 off per point. Then from 150 to 174 points, you get $20 off per point, so quite the jump there. After this mark though, we don't see another huge jump in incentive. For example, a 1,000+ point contract is $26 off per point, so that's not that different from $20 off per point. Just from those incentives, it does seem to me like they're clearly trying to funnel people into buying 150 point contracts. It's a very interesting psychological move considering this is only for existing members. On May 30th, sales of villas at Disneyland Hotel will open to everyone, and we are expecting to see new incentives, both for the new first-time buyer members as well as existing members. Obviously, we can't predict the future, but generally speaking, it is a relatively safe bet that the initial pricing is going to be the cheapest you'll ever see it. So if you are an existing member and you're heavily considering buying direct to buy villas at Disneyland Hotel, this pricing is probably the cheapest you'll see it. The future certainly could prove me wrong, but only time will tell. Additionally, DVCnews.com is reporting that there is the Magical Beginnings offering for these new purchases. Magical Beginnings is essentially a way for folks to save some money if they don't plan on using their first use year's worth of points. I believe it's a bit more complicated than this in reality, but effectively you buy the contract, you feel like you're selling back your first use years of points, they take them away from you, and then you get to save some money on your purchase. DVCnews.com is reporting that you can save up to $22 per point for selling back your first use year's worth of points. For villas at Disneyland Hotel specifically, I believe no one's getting 2022 use year points, so you would have to sell off your 2023 use year points. That means your 2024 use year points become the first allotment you can use, but of course standard borrowing is in effect. Exact details here are a bit fuzzy in my opinion, so you will want to contact your DVC guide about this. But if you are able to save $22 per point off of a new purchase and you aren't planning on using those points anyway, that's a pretty good deal if you ask me. And as part of those sales for villas at Disneyland Hotel rolling out, the public offering statement has been adjusted. There's a general statement in the public offering statement that effectively says you're buying into Disney Vacation Club as is, and any proposed projects are not guaranteed, so you shouldn't buy thinking that, oh, you'll definitely get access to these things that are coming down the line. The overall message of that paragraph is very standard language, not surprising at all, but there were two interesting details here. First, they name Reflections a Lakeside Lodge in this paragraph. To me, that indicates the project is still somewhat alive. Reflections had been shelved since the pandemic, and I think we all knew it was on the back burner, but to what degree on the back burner was never clear. In fact, since Reflections has been shelved, we have gotten the expansion at the Grand Floridian, we've heard the Polynesian Tower be announced, and now we've got these cabins at Fort Wilderness announced as well. So Reflections still clearly is not a #1 priority, but it is named in the public offering statement, which to me says it's not totally dead. We still have no real details on Reflections, to be honest, but I did think it was interesting that they included it in the public offering statement. And weaving this back into one of our earlier topics, when the cabins at Fort Wilderness was announced, I was pretty surprised that they were announcing that and not Reflections. A lot of work has gone into the planning of Reflections. Obviously, a lot of work has gone into the planning of the cabins at Fort Wilderness as well, but certainly the Reflections stuff must predate that. Part of me thinks it's probably just going to be a much easier lift for them to convert the existing cabins into DVC cabins at Fort Wilderness than to build up an entirely new Reflections site. But for all we know, maybe these things will be attached at one point or the other. I don't know, that's pure speculation. They do kind of have similar vibes in my opinion though. A lakeside lodge seems a little more bougie, a little more lush than I think the concept art for the cabins, but the reality, I mean, who knows? The cabins could be very bougie and lush on the inside. Maybe the art just doesn't reflect that at this time. Anyway, just an interesting tidbit, Reflections lives on. The second interesting part about that paragraph is they do name drop the Poly as a future project, but they call it Disney's Polynesian Village Resort, which is the hotel name, not the DVC name. The existing DVC portion goes by Polynesian Villas and Bungalows. I did notice this in my initial read, but didn't put too much stock into it. Basically thought, oh, it's weird that they called it the Poly hotel name, but whatever. Maybe it was a copy editing mistake, maybe they wanted to stay general on purpose. I just didn't think too much of it. But the good folks at dvcnews.com rightfully pointed out that this actually might be a signal. And specifically calling the new project anything other than Polynesian Villas and Bungalows might be a signal that the new tower would be in its own association separate from the existing studios and bungalows. That would then make this like a Boulder Ridge and Copper Creek situation where the two associations are housed at the same general resort but are totally separate. So for example, the 11-month home resort priority doesn't apply across both resorts. I thought that was a great catch by dvcnews.com and definitely wanted to pass that along. I still think we'll have to wait and see though. The tower is slated to open sometime in late 2024, so it may be a long time before we have meaningful details. Personally, I think it would be a real shame for them to be in separate associations because a lot of the allure of the tower, in my opinion, is having 1-bedrooms and normal 2-bedrooms that aren't bungalow priced that are then part of the Poly DVC offering. The current Poly studios are huge, but it is not a 1-bedroom. There is something to be said about separation of space, especially depending on your travel party, if you have 4 adults or 2 adults and growing kids. I know a lot of people also really value the full kitchen and the laundry that comes with a 1-bedroom. Plus, while the Poly studios are huge for studios, they definitely are not 1-bedroom sized. So to me, a lot of the allure of the tower is sure, you have the existing studios and bungalows that you can have access to, but you'll get 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms and presumably a couple grand villas. Maybe there will be those duo studios or tower studios for 2 people as well. And separating those out completely just seems really silly to me and like it doesn't actually solve many problems. I think you'd also really be testing the nerves of the current PVV owners, although of course they weren't promised a tower in the future. They bought into Poly as what it was with the studios and bungalows, but to then build a brand new tower with a new pool and all these new villa types and them not be able to access it, like, oh, that's rough. Personally, I just think it makes sense for the new tower to be in the same association as the existing villas and bungalows. I think this makes sense logically, just given the current limitations of the Poly DVC situation, again, with only studios and bungalows, as well as keeping your DVC customers happy, all that kind of stuff. But again, only time will tell. I really hope I'm right because I think this being in 2 associations would be a bummer for a vast majority of people, but we'll find out. I'll do my best to keep you posted as we learn more. Definitely follow me on Twitter. I comment on small news on Twitter a lot more than anywhere else. You can also follow me on Instagram at PixieDustPhD. Video-wise, we might do little updates like this. They might be in literal shorts, so the vertical format on YouTube, or often I talk about this type of stuff in the monthly creator updates. I know the topics of the monthly creator updates aren't interesting for everyone, but I do put timestamps in the description so you can always scroll through the description and see if we talk about any little DVC news there. Thanks to everyone who likes the videos, subscribes to the channel, and turns notification on. It really does help me out. Let me know what you think about any or all of this DVC news in the comments down below, and if I missed anything, please do flag that for me. May the rest of your day be magical, and we'll see you real soon at Pixie Dust PhD.